You are listening to the SDSU podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your host, Andre Hagverdian.
All right, yeah.
Welcome, listeners, back to another episode of the SDSU podcast. I'm Andre Hagverdian, joined by our EVT colleague, Chris Spiering. What's going on, Chris?
Not much. Coming off a crazy game on Tuesday night against Troy. Weather's starting to get a little chilly, but we're right here in the midst of college basketball season, so it doesn't really get any better than this.
Yeah, definitely a lot of rain in San Diego, more than what we're used to, but a change of pace isn't bad as long as it's not awful and it's not causing any harm to anybody
Mm-hmm.
around the city. I mean, but yeah, you called it a crazy game all around on Tuesday night at VAS Arena. The Aztecs playing Troy. Obviously, it was a double overtime loss. A lot to dissect from that game. But
Yeah.
just as an overarching thought, what did you covered the game? You were at the post game press conferences, where you wrote your recap. What's your overarching, thought from that coming out of that?
Yeah, like you said, there's so much we can discuss about it. As the game was kind of going along, Troy wasn't going away. So you can kind of have that thought in the back of your head, like, all right, this is going to come down to the wire. Just looking at the notes here, they led 35 minutes. So
Yeah.
SDSU only had, the lead for about 10 minutes of the game. And that was just a lot of overtime, to be honest. So, yeah, just a lot to dissect, lots to improve on. I know Miles said it after the game that the team needs to improve on pretty much everything. Troy Scott Cross is an excellent coach. I was blown away with his coaching. His game plan seemed to be. I don't think you could have come up with a better game plan. I mean, they were moving the ball very well. They were attacking the basket, kicking out to wide open threes. They were hitting those threes. They hit 12 for the game. Their percentage wasn't great. I think they only finished 35% from three, which isn't incredible, but
Yeah.
it was the timely threes. There was that one in overtime from Thomas Dowd to pretty much silence the crowd. I think SDSU was up 4 at the time, and he hit it to cut the
Yeah.
down to 1. You look at the free throws from the Aztecs, 34 for 48. I mean, my goodness, I don't remember what the exact record is for attempts in a game, but that was up there for one of the highest the Aztecs have ever, attempted in a game in terms of free throws.
91 total free throws across both teams.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I've seen a game. I've been at a game live in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And if the Aztecs are going to be taking close to 50 free throws a game, you got to make more than 34.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a big thing right there, because they're just, the free points. That's 14, free points they missed off the board there. So, Reese Dixon Waters played 43 minutes. Dutcher said that, that's not the plan ever again. Obviously, double overtime is going to extend those minutes a little bit more, but he actually, I think Dutcher said that he missed some time this week again with a little bit of an injury. So he didn't have like a full week of practice, even though
I
they
think
had
he said he was sick,
yeah,
right?
was that what it was? And then
I think
Miles
so.
Heidi had the little bit of a foot injury, ankle
Yeah.
injury. So he missed some time as well. Heidi ended up playing 21 minutes, came off the bench. Farrell Compton earned the start, off his career high 14 points against Idaho State. He only played 10 minutes, scored 6 points. Again, did not miss a shot from the field. So, his production when he's, attempting shots, getting up there, finishing alley-oop dunks, getting the offensive boards and finishing in the lane there. So
He's 12 of 13. He's 12 of 13 from the field this year. He's just
Yeah,
not playing minutes because of fouls. And
it's the foul trouble.
I was surprised he didn't get back in the game after he got his third foul in the second half. even Dutcher said like, "Oh, I should have probably played him more." I
Hmm.
just don't know why he didn't bring him back in, especially when you're playing a small team where you can punish them inside. We know Miles Heide is, as tall as he is, he's not a guy who finishes around the rim. Doesn't really have much of an offensive game. He missed a couple bunnies.
Again,
Pharaoh is a guy who can put those down, slam them in. Could have been more useful, but yeah, that was one thing I took away from there. Yeah, usually we're here talking about a bad San Diego State loss and we're blaming the offense, but like they shot 47% from the field, they shot 39 from three-point land, they scored what 89 in regulation and 107. I mean, the turnovers, obviously 20 turnovers.
that's too many.
That's too
And they
many.
only scored 30. That was
LZ had
another.
his freshman moment with his six turnovers in this game. He did make two buckets in overtime that were really nice middies. Um, but yeah, overall, this was a game built around a poor defense and poor giving up 17 offensive rebounds to um, a really small Troy team. I think that just not good, and that was kind of the biggest issue in this game.
Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to talk about was the lack of forced turnovers. That was another thing that Scott Cross and Troy, the Troy Trojans, excelled in. They did not turn the ball over. I know some of the media that we were talking throughout the game. In the second half, SDSU did not force a turnover. I don't remember what it was. I know I put it in my recap, but I think it was over 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Through the second
Yeah,
half, and Troy had not committed a turnover. So, I mean, the SDSU's aggression is always going to be there. They're always going to be, defending really well. On ball. When opponents are driving into the paint, SDSU is going to crash hard. SDSU was switching ball screens, which they don't
yeah,
do often. Dutch said that after the game. They did not excel in that. I'm wondering why he didn't go away from that. He kind of just stuck with it, even though Troy was
yeah.
playing well. He kept with his game plan to switch the screens. Um, so yeah, you just got to tip your cap to Troy. I mean Thomas Dowd, 25 points and 18 rebounds. What a game against the Aztecs at Viejas Arena. Like
Yeah.
that is rare. Nick Clifford did not do that.
No.
Um, what JT Toppin did not do that, even though he was a freshman at UNLV New Mexico at the time. But I'm just trying to think of some other names that with size that
Yeah.
that did that. There's no one that's grabbed 18 rebounds in a game at Viejas in a long time. So on the road. So you just gotta tip your cap to them. They played very well. They did not go away every single time. The Aztecs tried to pull away late in overtime or what it was. They responded right away. Right when SDSU went up four in double overtime, I thought they were going to pull away, but I think that's when Dowd hit that three and it just silenced the crowd and everybody was just, man, nothing you could really do. So
Yeah, before we get into kind of the crazy comeback at the end, we should mention Magoon Guath came back and he looked
mhm.
really good. Got to the free throw line a lot. Didn't miss a shot from the field. Made three-pointers. Blocked
Clutch
three
three pointers,
shots.
clutch 3 pointers at that too.
And
This
like he didn't look like he missed a beat, honestly, and he probably played a little bit more than they wanted to play him for his first game back. But I think that was if you can take one thing away from this game positively, it was the fact that Magoon looked really good.
Yeah, glad to have him back for sure. He did come off the bench as Jeremiah Odin did start for his third consecutive game.
Yeah,
Um, you know, Toucher said it after the game. He didn't really have Guath on a minutes restriction, and he kind of made a joke
yeah,
about it. He was like, "If I'm told the player's on a restriction, I don't know what the minutes are." He's like, "I'm not told what the minutes are." Um,
yeah. I don't know if that's true.
yeah, so that's what he did say though. But he played 27 minutes, just pretty much 28 minutes in the game. He kind of said before the game, right, between Hay and Odin, we're going to play roughly, 20 minutes each. Odin played 21, obviously with
Yeah,
the overtime, right? That pretty much would have been exact. But yeah, Magungwat did not miss a beat. Finished with a game high, I believe, even higher than anyone on Troy. Yeah, game high plus 15. So yeah, 20
yeah.
points, 8 for 12 from the line. I think right when he checked in for the first time, he was very aggressive. He missed his first couple, but went 4 for 7 right off the bat because he hit 3 in a row. Finished 8 for 12 from the line. So if he's going to be aggressive, connecting on his shots, getting to the line, pulled down 7 rebounds. So finished with 3 blocks. I mean, he's a monster. The Aztecs are obviously they did lose the game, but they're
Yeah.
clearly way better with him on the floor. I mean, they would have been lost without Guath on in that game, and I think they would have been lost without BJ Davis too. I mean, BJ Davis went 3 for 12 from the floor, did not look great offensively, did hit a couple,
Yeah.
good shots, hit a three on a pass from Odin, I believe, on the fast break, but it was his defense that was, that kept the Aztecs in the game for the most part, forcing
And he
turnovers,
made all 8 free throws. He was
and
the
he made all 8 free
only,
throws.
well,
So,
somebody, Sean Newman was 2 for 2, but everybody else. So, I mean, they fell behind 14-2, got back, tied it at halftime. I mean, I think I was telling people at halftime, like, hey, I think the Aztecs are going to go on a run. They're probably still going to win by 15. And then second half starts, and it's the Troy that went on a run. And they had another 12-point lead with 3:38 left, and that's when the comeback kind of began. You mentioned Magoon hit a couple clutch shots. Um, they're down three. No, they're down two with the ball out sideline out of bounds. I think Taj had 6 assists in this game. But that one turnover, he threw the ball kind of towards half court, and he and Miles kind of had a miscommunication. Miles kind of stopped, Tosh threw it, and it was a turnover, which led to 2 free throws to go up four with what, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 seconds left. Which that kind of, if people hadn't left already, they started to leave after that one.
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean,
Costly turnovers. They fumbled
costly.
the inbound pass three times, 4 times.
Yeah.
That's crucial possessions they
But
lost.
then Miles gets fouled on a three. I didn't see a replay, but from live, it looked a little questionable. I think he
I
kind of threw
didn't see the
himself
replay.
into the defender.
I didn't see the replay on it.
Yeah, and he hit 2 free throws, and obviously the important part is you want to miss the third one, try to get a rebound and tip it in. He didn't hit the rim on the
No,
missed attempt, which is a big no-no. You got to hit the rim. I think he even stepped over the line before the ball got there. So even if it hit the rim, it might have even been called by violation. So at that point, then you're thinking, okay, now it's definitely over.
right,
Um, but then as we were talking about this before we were started recording, the Troy player missed the first free throw,
right,
right? And which opened up, potential 3-point game. And I was telling the people I was sitting with, like, hey, you missed this free throw on purpose because that means then San Diego State with 2.7 seconds has to rebound the ball, and you don't have time to run a play or have someone going towards the. You're gonna have to throw up a 75-footer, which I thought you missed that free throw. He made it, which gave them a chance to kind of run a play. Now it's still not. You're not gonna run a. You're still 94 feet away from the basket. But it did give them a chance for Miles to kind of catch the pass going towards half court. Um, and obviously he kind of, I don't know what the defender didn't want to foul him, so he kind of jumped out of the way and kind of opened up, the parting of the Red Sea, which gave Miles kind of a
wide
clean
open
look,
lane, pretty much.
clean
Yeah,
look at the basket. It's still a half court shot, but he nailed it, and it was just wild because three-fourths of the crowd is gone at that point. So like, just imagine if he hits that shot with a full VAS arena, how
right.
loud it would be. I mean, it's still pretty loud.
Yeah,
But what were you thinking when that whole thing I just described unfolded?
yeah. It was one of the craziest sequences you'll ever see. Right. Just telling myself, like I said before, don't let him miss the first one. I'm
Yeah,
telling the media next to me, don't let him miss the first one. And
yeah,
then he did. And then just like you said, he should probably miss a second. Mark Ziegler said the same thing to the right of me, I believe. He was like, probably should miss this next shot. You
yeah,
don't want to give the Aztecs any type of, you know, release and free release, I should say.
yeah,
And like you said, they gave him a wide open lane. The play was not even supposed to go to Bird. it was actually supposed to go to Sean Newman, which is a shock,
Yeah,
considering he's only made one field goal this season. Which I'm gonna I'm kind of related, but I'm gonna write an article on Sean this weekend and kind of dissect his first three games a little bit and
yeah,
what we can expect from him. But going back to that shot, you've seen the replay, a bunch of times, right? You can kind of see that Miles is kind of just waiting for it. They practice during right before they go back into the locker room to come back out with their for introductions. They're shooting that half court shot. Miles is I've seen Miles make it multiple times. So this is not a shock to see him actually make it. In a
yeah,
game, right? It's like it's you can consider it a Hail Mary for lack of a better term. But even the NBA is trying to see more of these type of shots, right? They're making it a team shot rather than a player shot. So they want these type of full court heaves, half court heaves, to be
yeah,
happening more often. So we're gonna be seeing more of these, but it's very rare to see someone actually get a clean look like he did. I mean, if you're Troy, you're like, all right, we don't want to foul him. They don't think that he's gonna make it. They thought they had the game won. You could see when he did make it. There was a Troy player that dropped to his knees. Um,
yeah,
they, I think everybody there thought that Troy was done and SDSU was just going to dominate overtime.
yeah.
Both overtime periods, they had an early lead. Did not
Four-point lead in both overtimes.
Troy did not go away.
Yeah.
So
Considering they were playing, I think 3 games in 5 nights. Yeah,
so
you would
it's,
think
it's
that their legs and at the
yeah.
start of the first overtime, which helped San Diego State get a 4-point lead, like they were short on a lot of their shots, and I told kind of the guys I was with, like, yeah, look, I think their legs are have caught up to them, but
Mhm.
then you're right, they didn't go away. They came back and made some tough shots after that. Going back to that Bird play, though, as you mentioned, it wasn't even for him. It was for Sean Newman. Bird said that in the post game, like, sorry,
Well,
coaches. But like, we can admit that Brian Dutcher is an excellent coach, but this was not one of his better coaching performances. And it's just like players can have bad games, coaches can have bad games. But I don't understand how you could have that play go to Sean Newman, who is not. Like, what is he gonna do in 2.8 seconds or 2.7 seconds,
it's just
looping at behind half court? Like, I'd rather have a Miles or a Reese or a Magoon be the one that's trying to shoot a half court shot, other than Sean Newman. So that one is a head scratcher for me. That would have been for Sean Newman, but obviously Miles took it upon himself. If he misses that shot, is Dutcher going to be mad at him for not running the play as called? No, probably, but.
probably not, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, you're right. I would have was pretty sure going into overtime that the Aztecs pretty much were going to run away with that in overtime, and they tried to. But kudos to Troy for stepping back up and sending it to double overtime. Obviously, I think Reese had to hit a tough driving kind of banker just to send it to double overtime, and then we all know what happened on that last play. Miles Bird ended up with a pretty open three that he missed, and then Sean Newman got the rebound and got the ball blocked. Was he fouled? I don't know.
I don't
Um,
think so. It looks clean. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you're down one. You probably can take it to the basket. I know Odin kind of drove it to the basket and kicked it back out. Um, but yeah, it was just, I think it was something you would expect. I think they're happy with the shot that they got. Miles Bird said he was happy with the clean look he got, but you would think you could take it to the basket against a smaller team, especially since so much of their players fouled out at that point. I don't know who was out there for Troy at that point. Um, but
Victor
yeah,
Valdez fouled out. Kobe Campbell fouled out as well, I believe. If it
yeah.
was either Kobe or Cooper, I believe it was Kobe.
Kobe fouled out, Victor Valdez, Carrington Keel. So yeah, they had the three guys foul out of like the six guys that they played, seven guys that they played.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah. Before we get right back into the that final possession, just going to that shot from Bird. I just wanted to give the fans the quote if they didn't get to
yeah,
see it. So this is what Bird said post game. Honestly, it was not even supposed to go to me. We were just trying to loop around off two of Troy's players, and I took it upon myself when I got that loop. You've got a group of 5 guys that shoot a half court shot before the game 2 times. And I think I'm very comfortable with that shot. I'm glad I stepped up and drilled it, but it did not really mean much at the end of the game. So, going back to that, the only thing I can think about is to why Sean Newman was getting the number there. It was, he has pace, not much time left. Maybe they felt that there'd be a guy right on Miles the entire time. That ended up not being the case.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's early in the season, you know. I just didn't, I don't think Brian Dutcher expected to be in this kind of position so early in the year. And so, it's a bad loss. Clearly a lot to, improve on.
Yeah.
And in the final possession, that's something they need to improve on. You can look at multiple things on that final possession. Odin kind of having somewhat of a lane. A lot of Aztecs fans commented on a lot of my posts saying they would have liked Odin to just attack the basket there, draw the foul. There was 91 free throw attempts in the game. You would think because of the theme of the game, you would just kind of, keep it going. Yes, you're down. They were down 1. So, you would just need to make one free throw to go to, to force another overtime, or, obviously make both to have a chance to win. But I think in that kind of situation, you kind of gotta know the game, know the officials in that kind of aspect, right? Troy already had 3 guys foul out. SDSU had 2 guys foul out. The fouls were getting called. Odin attacking the basket there may have been because he had somewhat of a lane, may have been in hindsight, it's always 2020, but that might have been the smarter decision.
Yeah.
But Miles Bird did have a decent look. Obviously he had made threes earlier in the game. He was 4 for 8 to end, so he had a bunch of threes to get him back in it in the second half. Yeah, so obviously Sean Newman Jr. got the rebound, put it up. I don't think he was fouled, but
Yeah, a lot of I saw some posts about why didn't they challenge it? Fouls are not challengeable.
Mm-mm.
So I think a lot of fans think maybe now that there's a coach's challenge, you can challenge a non-foul or a foul call. You can't.
No.
I think there's like 4 things you can challenge, like goaltending, out of bounds,
Yeah,
um,
foot on the line.
foot on the line, and I think a secondary defender coming over to take the charge or something like that. So you couldn't challenge. Oh, that's a foul. I'm challenging. So
Right.
that wasn't even an option. If anybody is still wondering that.
Yeah. So yeah, just
Do you think that this is a crippling loss that eliminates them from at-large discussions?
it's too early to tell.
Yeah,
They could bounce back and beat Michigan on Monday night, and people are they're not gonna forget about this loss. They're gonna be bummed
right.
about it, but anything can happen over the long scheme of a season.
Yeah,
Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's going to be there on Selection Sunday. It's going to be there the entire season. I think it's going to make the team better, though. I mean, they know they lost to an opponent they weren't supposed to lose to, but they didn't quit. They were down 12 with 3
yeah,
minutes. They came back. They should have won in overtime, but they didn't. Um, these type of games are going to happen. Like I said earlier, you just got to tip your cap to Troy for making those shots. They hit timely,
yeah,
clutch shots. Um, but yeah, it is a crippling loss. You can't ignore it. But at the end of the day, Brian Dutcher's a hell of a coach. He's going to get his team back on track. Scott Cross is a great coach for Troy. He drew up a great game plan. Not many teams are going to have that kind of game plan against SDSU, and Michigan and Oregon definitely won't, because they're completely different teams than Troy. They are not. I mean, Troy shoots almost 50% of their makes in their points or in their attempts are off 3-point shots. I mean, that's just what they do.
yeah,
Michigan has height. Oregon has height. It's going to be a completely different game. If the Aztecs are able to rebound, limit the points in the paint, if Troy is able to get 38 points in the paint, that's not a good thing. So that's one thing they got to look at. Yeah, it's just tough to tell so early in the season. It's only been 3 games. Troy's played 6. Yes, they played, that was their third game in like a week, but you know, they did not have the fresher legs, but they had
Yeah.
the momentum, I guess you could say, coming into the game. The Aztecs had 9 days off. Sometimes it's like that. And Dutcher wasn't, technically pleased with the fact that they had 9 days off. I saw his quote before the game, but
Yeah.
he said there's nothing you can do. He said they tried to schedule opponents, in that week, and they couldn't, and nobody wanted to travel to Viejas to play that game, so they had to wait for that game against Troy. So, and with all the early season tournaments, happening now, it's going to be like that. So
Yeah, I mean if you beat Michigan, you beat Arizona in December, sure, I think so. But if you lose those games and you don't have a great non-conference win, I think it's going to put them at a disadvantage, barring I don't know, almost perfect conference schedule. Which because the conference Mountain West does not have high marks right now,
no, it's not.
and so there's not going to be a lot of quad one games that you can win in conference.
Nevada just had their crushing loss on Tuesday night, also.
So yeah, I do think they're gonna need to win at least a game, maybe two next week in Vegas. That Arizona game becomes even bigger now.
Or
Um,
Arizona just beat UConn on the road, I believe, or was
yeah,
it a neutral site game? I can't remember if it was a neutral site, but
I think it was neutral.
it
It
might
was
have been.
part of
Just
one of those
yeah,
classics or whatever. I think it was neutral.
I just saw that they were the away team,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, Arizona's got 2 big wins, UCLA and UConn, so
yeah,
they're gonna be a top 3 team, more than likely top 4 team when the Aztecs play them in Arizona. So I
yeah. So
will.
Vegas obviously is coming up. Players Era tournament Monday, Tuesday, and then either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how those first two games go. Bryant from East Village Times is going to be there in person to cover. Don DeMars will also be there taking his photos. So we look forward to their coverage of that tournament next week. We talked about it a little bit, but like early kind of thoughts on those Michigan and Oregon matchups. I think Michigan is what a top is ranked seventh.
They're ranked 7th at the moment. They are coming off a win, I believe, on Tuesday night as well. Wednesday night. They played last night.
I think we probably see Magoon in the starting lineup.
I would think so. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I would think so. Michigan has got a 7'3" center,
Yeah.
Mara, a, a day. I'm probably not pronouncing his first name correct, so my apologies on that. But Mara, he's 7'3" junior from Spain. Shoots 67% from the floor, averages 11 points, 10 rebounds, even 2 assists a game. So he's heavily involved on their in their offense. They have another forward, Merez Johnson Jr., who's averaging just over 13 points a game. He's also averaging 62% from the floor. So, we're shooting 62% from the floor. So they got guys. They have a North Carolina transfer, Elliot Godot, who,
Yeah.
the Aztecs remember from the first 4 game against North Carolina. He's a rotational guy for them, I believe. So there's gonna be, like I said, different kind of game. This team has a lot more height than Troy
Troy.
does. So, and then Oregon too with Nate Biddle. They still got Nate Biddle there. So they're gonna be a team that's gonna be forcing it in the paint, and they're gonna need Guath on the floor,
Yeah.
to defend the rim, and they're gonna need Miles Heide to step up too, because we all know that he can grab the rebounds. He got 9 against Troy. He can get the rebounds, 7 offensive boards, but you know, just got to be more consistent at finishing, close to the basket. So
What do you think is going to happen with that starting center spot? You really think it's going to keep rotating? It's very unlike Dutcher to kind of have a scramble every game, switching around. So I don't know. He mentioned Heidi had his ankle issues, which is why he didn't start him. But he played a lot more minutes. I would think that Heidi would be back in the starting lineup. Um, but I don't know for sure. And I think maybe you might need Farrow's aggressiveness and his length against some of those Michigan guys. a little bit more, but we'll see what he decides there.
Yeah, like you said, they're gonna need Compton, and it's the foul trouble too. Like I don't think you can start Compton against Michigan knowing that the foul trouble has been an issue. Heidi's a little
Yeah,
bit
that's a
better.
good point.
Heidi's a little bit better in terms of rebounding, and he's got a little bit more of the experience as a starter. So I would assume that Heidi would get put back in as the starting five, at least against Michigan and Oregon, just knowing that their centers are huge, and so you're gonna need rebounding. If Compton's gonna get his minutes. I would hope he would get more than 10 minutes against Michigan, but if he can limit the fouls, he's gonna stay on the floor. He's 12 for 13 on the season, I believe, in field goals.
Yeah,
So he's converting when he's scoring, but it's just yeah, it's the foul trouble. Tay Simmons, just under 5 minutes against Troy. He probably won't get many minutes against Michigan, but you never know.
yeah. Well,
Um,
you think Majox gets in this game because of his size?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah,
There wouldn't. I mean, maybe because he's already played in a game. It's not like you're holding off or anything at this point with him. So maybe it'd be an out of bounds play where you're trying to defend late in the shot clock or situational stuff. But
yeah,
I wouldn't assume he'd get many minutes. If he did, it'd just be a few at the end of the game. But yeah, it's going to be a completely different game that you saw against Troy. So
yeah,
if they can rebound, if they can limit a ton of scoring in the paint, which is what Michigan is going to attempt to
yeah,
do. Um, and we always say this: just need to start better offensively. Maybe a change of scenery playing in Vegas will help a little bit, get some of those nerves off. But the Aztecs don't start well offensively. We kind of joked about it after the game. Like the fans do the stomp and clap, right? And it's like I understand it's a tradition that's never going to go away. It's a great tradition, but they're doing it a little bit longer than they're supposed to. So you
yeah.
know,
I want to remember maybe in the mid 2010s where there were some that was when their offense they had some really bad offensive teams. And I remember there were games where 6, 7, 8 minutes into the game, we were still standing.
yeah.
Um,
So
and then the offense has gotten better over the years where they're not like since the Malachi Flynn team, it just we weren't standing that long. But yeah, this year so far, these couple games seems like it's going longer than it has in the recent past. And yeah, they're gonna have to. And I'm also interested how the point guard rotation kind of gets figured out because as we mentioned, Taj, he had 6 assists, right? But he was only
what
one
you're
for
looking for.
seven. He was
That's what
one
you're
for
looking
seven
for.
from the floor. Um, LZ had 6 turnovers, but he made those two nice buckets in overtime. And then Newman really didn't. I think he only made one of four. But I think
He
as a
went
point
a
guard with Reese, Magoon, and Miles, I think Newman is the best fit for that starting lineup because he is more of a creator and a facilitator. I wouldn't be surprised to see Newman out there starting once Magoon is back in the starting lineup. I think he fits that lineup a little bit better, skill
I
set wise.
agree. I agree. Yeah, he's looking to push with pace. He's looking to assist. In the game against Troy, right, with Taj's numbers, that's kind of what we expected to see from Newman.
Yeah,
But he hasn't really settled down yet. That's going to come, and I'm going to kind of dissect it, like I said earlier in an article. Just trying to see where things can improve with
yeah,
Newman. And like you said, there is an argument that he might be the best fit as a starter. Taj is still young. Newman has the experience. Was the third in
yeah,
assists in the country last season. Um, but yeah, I mean Newman. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. It's just taken a little bit longer than people expected. He hasn't really played a ton of minutes yet, and he had to play at the end of the game. A majority of his minutes were late game because BJ Davis fouled out, and so and then Taj fouled out. So Newman had to be on the floor late in the game there, and that experience of them not finishing the game is going to help him. It's going to help the
yeah,
team. But the starting five is gonna keep changing. There is no set starting five, especially with a team this deep, and injuries are going to happen. Magoon will find his way back in the starting lineup. I would assume it's against Michigan. If it's not, it's coming. You know.
yeah.
but yeah, Newman Jr. could start. Taj DeGorville could start. BJ Davis could start. He started a lot of games last season. Um, Davis knows that, I guess you could say he kind of understands more of the defensive uh, scheme more than Taj and Newman do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I need to see more offensively in terms of scoring from Taj and LZ. I think those two, we talked about them potentially being breakout players before the season started. They are very good players, Taj and LZ. They can score, and it's confidence, right? They need to have that confidence, knowing that they can get the job done. You saw it late in the game with LZ. He took it out of himself to attack the rim, and that pull up mid range from LZ is just beautiful. If
Yeah.
he can find his rhythm with that, he can score 6 to 8 points just off pull up mid rangers every game. Uh,
Hmm.
he needs to know that it can happen. He finished 2 for 2. He had the 6 turnovers. Um, that's not going to happen very often. It's still early in his career. He's going to settle down. A lot of these players are going to settle down, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to say, a lot of people kind of are looking at it, well, this team, we overrated this team. They're not as good, anywhere near as good as we thought. They're not as talented. The alternative argument is it was just one bad night,
mhm,
and they can learn from it. They can improve from it. They're still talented. From the football team, second game of the season, they went to Washington State and got spanked, and everyone wanted Sean Lewis fired.
mhm,
And now they've only lost one games in their last eight since then, and they're
mhm,
on track to host and potentially win the Mountain West Championship. So obviously, college basketball is a little different, but
mhm.
it's a long season. It was the third game of the
Yeah,
season.
snooze
Um,
isn't going to happen.
if
Ask.
they continue to make these mistakes and have these issues, after three games next week in Vegas, if we're back here talking about that and we're talking about the same issues and the same problems, then yeah, then we can talk about potentially this team not being as good as everyone thought preseason. But I think after just the Troy game, it was a little early. Pump the brakes and let's see how they do in Vegas next week before we kind of make a sweeping generalization about the team because I'm not ready to go there yet.
I'm not either, but at the same time, I do think they need to win 2 games in Vegas. It does not have to be against Michigan. We know how good of a
Yeah,
team they are. If they do lose to Michigan, they need to bounce back and beat Oregon. I think they will beat Oregon. Um, Oregon had played so well against the Aztecs last year, though, so it's going to be tough.
yeah,
Dan Altman's one of the greatest coaches in the country, so you already know what Oregon's gonna do. They are gonna be very aggressive as well. The Aztecs need to beat Oregon though. I'm not going to consider the Michigan game a must win. I mean, who would say that in the fourth game of the season against the top 10 team? So,
yeah,
but the Oregon game is, and if they go 1-1, that third game, similar to what they did last year, could be playing for a third place game, could be playing for a fifth place game. There's a lot more teams, so you don't really know. Um, So, and I noticed that Auburn has like the same kind of schedule. They just play Oregon first and then Michigan after that. So, depending on if everybody goes 1-1 or whatnot, we could be playing Auburn after that. So, we'll see what happens. They need to win 2 games in Vegas to get back on track because that Arizona game is looming right before Christmas.
yeah,
Um, you know, I know they play Lamar in Utah Valley. Though, like I said before, Troy, like they're expected to win those games. We're gonna assume that they're gonna win those games. Um, and then conference play is gonna start in January. And so, well, the one game in December, but it's really gonna start in January. And knowing that the Mountain West Conference is off to a slow start, and everybody except for Utah State really is not looking great. So I think that knowing that the Mountain West is, off to a bad start makes it a little bit easier to think that the Aztecs will kind of figure things out as the season goes. They're still the favorite to win the conference. I don't see them losing the conference with a team like this. Um, yeah, it's a tough loss. There's so many things you can look at, so many things you can dissect. At the end of the day, Troy played very, very well. The Aztecs played well offensively. Their defense was not there. We all know how good this Aztecs defense is going to be. They're going to bounce back. and they're gonna hold multiple. They're gonna have multiple games, and they're holding teams to under 60 points, and you know we'll be having these discussions, again here soon. But yeah, like you said, if they don't show well in Vegas, those overrated talks are gonna come out, but it's just too early to really fault them right now, if that makes sense. You got to see more from them. They're still
Yeah.
a very young team, so
A
I,
lot
I
of a lot of games to play this season,
a
and
lot of games to play.
yeah, I mean, obviously, this time next week they would have doubled their number of games. So, 3 games in Vegas can tell us a lot about this team.
Hmm. Definitely.
All right, I think they play Monday at 7 p.m. On True
Seven
TV, I believe.
7:30.
7:30 on True
Yeah, on
TV.
True. And then we have a late one, 8 o'clock start on Tuesday on TNT.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, and then we'll find out if they play Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how they do.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bryant. Bryant will be
Yeah.
there. So make sure you guys follow Bryant, so you're staying tuned with all the updates and in live action with him being there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's going to be a great tournament. It's turned into one of the biggest ones, outside of maybe the Maui Invitational, right? A lot of the teams in the play are very good. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a great test, and it's going to tell a lot of teams who they are
Yeah,
after this.
it'll get big national media coverage because there's so many, Power 4, Power 5 teams there.
Right.
It's
That's
going to bring a lot of the top college national media guys there too. So it'll be the highlight of college basketball at least for next week. So yeah, it should be fun. As Chris mentioned, make sure to follow EVT and Bryant on social media for all the coverage. Any last words before we sign off here?
Yeah, just the last thing I wanted to mention, delaying the EBT giveaway just a little bit, just to let this loss kind of, move down a little bit. And once things settle down, we'll get that EBT giveaway going. And so make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. That'll be a fun one.
Well, appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. We'll talk to you guys next week, hopefully after a good San Diego State performance in the Players era.
Mhm.
And you guys have a good night. You are listening to the SDSU podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your host, Andre Hagverdian.